Welcome to another episode of How I Edit. I'm going to be using Photoshop and software that I like to use called Portrait Pro. And again, we're going to turn an already great image into a work of art. So we're going to go from this, which you see here, and we're going to transform it into this with just a few steps. All right, let's roll. So for this edit, I'm going to start in the Adobe Bridge project folder. I'm going to double click on the image to get started. So now that we have the image open and ready to go in Photoshop, I'm going to duplicate the layer. To duplicate the layer, I'm going to hit Control J on the keyboard. Undo that. Another way I can duplicate this layer is if I were to grab it and drag it onto the new layer icon in the layers panel. That would duplicate it. I'm going to delete that also. Or I can come up here to the layer panel options, hit the little drop down, and I can select duplicate layer, and this gives me the option to name the layer. So I'm going to name it copy. So now that I've duplicated the layer, I'm going to do a quick evaluation. I'm going to zoom in and check for any imperfections on the face or on the skin. Okay, so now I am looking at the problematic areas, and for this, the fix is going to be the healing brush. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut H. That's going to bring up the healing brush. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. I'm going to make the brush a bit smaller. I'm going to paint over the imperfections. Now, important thing to note is that when you use the healing brush, you want to make sure that aligned is always checked. I'm going to hold the Alt key on the keyboard on a click, and I'm going to slowly paint away these imperfections. And I'm making these adjustments on the duplicated layer. Alright, to track my progress, I like to turn on and off the visibility of the layers. So that's the before, after. Just got a few more these blemishes to remove. So this isn't a fashion portrait, so I'm not gonna try to remove every single blemish. Alright, good. I like. Before and after. Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to apply some softening to the skin. I'm going to use a custom action that I created. I'm going to go over to my actions panel and select the skin softening action. Hit the play button at the bottom to run the action. Let's go over to the layers panel. Now that we're in the layers panel, I'm going to make sure that my brush is selected. I'm going to switch my foreground color to white. I'm going to zoom in. My opacity and flow is set to 50%. I'm going to make the brush a bit smaller, and I'm going to paint over skin slightly. So the changes are subtle, but trust me, they make a huge difference in the end product. that is good. So now, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the skin softening layer with the duplicate layer that I made earlier. So I'm going to hold the control key, going to click on the copy layer, and I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut control E, and what that's going to do is it's going to merge the two layers. So now that I've got the layers merged, I'm going to use a third-party plugin from Anthropix called Portrait Pro. I'm going to go over to my filters, going to go over to Anthropix Portrait Pro, and I'm going to wait for Portrait Pro to load. Anytime now. Okay, so now that the plugin is up and running, by default, it's going to make an outline of the face. But how I work with this program is that I come over here and I delete the outline completely. I'm going to start from scratch. Yep, delete it. So I'm going to manually locate face. Yes, it's a female. Going to hold my control key on the keyboard just to zoom in and put it precisely on the left corner of the eye. Going to do the same thing for the right. I'm going to do the same thing for the nose as well as the corners of the mouth. Okay, I'm going to make these quick adjustments. This area has some poor contrast, but I'm still going to make it work. Going to decrease the size of iris. Okay, let's jump over to the other side. Make these quick changes. There you go. And let's scale this down a bit and drag this over here to the center. Bring this here down. We are good. So let's make the quick changes to the mouth and the nose, and then we're going to outline the face. Our mouth is closed. Let's close that. Make a few quick adjustments. We'll line this up as quickly but as accurately as possible. Go to the next step. There we go. So I like everything we got going so far, so I'm gonna commit. As we wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait again and wait. There you go. Okay, so not bad at all. So one of the first things that I love to do when I'm done with making the selection of the face, by default, the software, it kind of sort of distorts the face, this face sculpting option. I tend to turn it off. I'm going to turn it off. Turn it back on. I actually like it better on. Off. On. Yeah, I'm going to keep it so it isn't distorted that bad. Okay, so the next key thing, the next important thing that I like to do is I like to adjust to the light, and I like to add a bit of contrast. So I'm going to go over to the lighting. I'm definitely going to make sure that color, skin color, set to natural. And I'm going to drag the light source. I'm going to bring it over to the original position of my strobe light. When I shot this photo, it was camera left. And just to enhance the look a bit, make it a bit more dramatic, I'm going to slide the contrast slide over just to darken the left side of her face. Okay, that's good. So what can I do to make this image pop some more? So what I can do to make this image pop just a bit more is I can add some reflections to the eyes. Because of the height of my strobe light, I had it a bit too high. We weren't able to get catch lights. So with this software, what I can do is I can go down, give me a sec, I can go down to the eye, scroll down just a bit more, and I can add a reflection. And I'm going to use a small beauty dish. I'm going to decrease the opacity to 56%. And come back and adjust it later. But what I need to do is I need to nudge these in position so they'll actually look kind of sort of natural. So I'm going to nudge the left first. I'm going to take the right just a bit higher. Alright. Not bad. So what else can we do to the eye? So let's go back over to skin smoothing, the eye in particular. Let's lighten some of those bags she got on her eyes and smooth them out just a bit. Okay, looks good. Zoom out a bit. Let's remove just a little bit more imperfections. Just shadows, so you have a smooth transition from light to dark. So now we're going to go back to the eye to brighten the iris just a bit. Let's whiten the eyes. Let's clean the eyes just a bit more. Alright, not bad. And let's just add a bit of shine to the lip. So we're going to go over to mouth and nose, and we're going to moisten the lips. So with using this software, it's pretty easy to go overkill. All the adjustments should be a subtle build-up. But so far, so good. So now we're going to go jump back to Photoshop. Anytime now, anytime now. Okay, so now that we are back inside Photoshop, let's have a quick look at the before and after. There is the after. Let's go to the before. Okay, not bad. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some dodge and burn effects just to enhance the shadows and the highlights. So let's start with the highlights. I'm going to grab the dodge tool, keyboard shortcut O, and let's zoom in a bit. I'll grab my pen, zoom in just a bit more, decrease the size of my brush. Alright, I'm going to start nose of the bridge of the nose, nose of the bridge. Okay, so forehead. Zoom in a bit. Alright, looks good. I'm gonna make the brush bigger. We're gonna paint light slightly over forearm and bicep. That's good. You don't want to overkill. Just slightly. Same thing here and here. Want to paint lightly. Zoom out a bit. All right. So far so good. So now I'm going to switch over to the burn tool. If you have the dodge tool selected already, you can just hit the keyboard shortcut Shift O, and that'll take you over to the burn tool. So what I'm going to do is just darken these areas, and I have my exposure set at 5% because I really want to make these changes really subtle. I'm going to darken here just a bit. Lips. Just want to make that touch up pop just a bit. I'm going to switch back to the dodge tool. Just going to lighten up the eyes just a little bit. Same thing for the watch and under the chin. Zoom out a bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick look at the before and after. So here's a look at the after. This is the before. Okay, so I like the direction where we're going, but there's definitely a few more things that we can actually do to make this image pop. So I'm going to add my signature lens flare. Actually, I'm going to add 2 lens flare. So let's navigate over to Adobe Bridge and let's bring in our lens flare. I'm going to double click to open in Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this over to our project. I'm going to drop it, place it here in the corner, and I'm going to free transform. I'm going to hit Control T on the keyboard. I'm going to drag from the bottom corner to get it to the size where we need it to be. That seems perfect. I'm going to commit the changes. So now at this point we definitely have a problem. The problem is we can't see the subject. So in order to see the subject, I'm going to change the blend mode of the lens flare that we brought over. I'm going to change it from normal. I'm going to change it to screen. And what the screen blend mode does is it hides all of the dark pixels. Okay, so now that the black has been removed, I can drag the hotspot and I can position it wherever I want to put it. So because the light is naturally coming from the left, I'm going to leave it here. Alright, let's have a quick look at the before and after. Okay, not bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a second lens flare. May be a bit much, but let's see how it works. Going to navigate back over to the Adobe Bridge. I'm going to double click on my lens flare. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag it over to the current project and I'm going to drop it. Okay, so now we have the same issue as before. We have this mass of black that's covering our model. So I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to set the blend mode of this layer to screen. So I'm going to go to layer options and set it to screen. It remove all of the dark pixels. And now that I've removed all of the dark pixels, we're faced with another problem. Okay, you have some of the lens flare is actually covering the face of the subject, and we don't want that. Also, you zoom in a bit, you can see here that we have this hard edge. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to grab the brush, right? The foreground color is set at white. I'm going to change it to black. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint away this hard line. Okay, so far so good. So now we want to remove some of the flare from directly out of the face of the model. What is that annoying sound? So now we still have black selected, and I'm just going to paint it ever so slightly. What we're doing is gradually and slowly painting away the lens flare so it's directly behind, not in front. Alright, I like so far so good. Okay, so we're making good progress. Let's again have a quick look at the before and after. So I'm going to hold Alt and click on the original layer. That's the before, this is the after. Okay, so we can do a few more things just to enhance it. And if you know me, if you've been following my videos so far, I like my images to have a cinematic look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a custom LUT to this image to give it a film look. Let's go over to my actions. I am in love, excuse me, with this teal and orange moody that I created. But just to show a bit of variety, I'm just going to use a light teal on orange. So highlight it, and I'm going to hit play to apply that LUT. Let's undo something's wrong. Let's go back a few steps. Back up, back up. Okay, here we go. So we're back on track. Let's just make sure we are in the right place. Okay, so let's go over to the actions. You know what, something still looks off. Let's hit the shift key. Yeah, something still looks a bit off, so I'm going to grab my brush. And let's remove some of this. Something can go wrong, it will go wrong, but we're back on track. Have another quick look at the before and after. Okay, we seem to be back on track. So, back to the next step. I'm going to add a cinematic look. I'm going to load my actions. What we're going to do is we're going to hit the teal and orange polish. I'm going to hit play to run the action. And if you blinked, you missed it. But let's have a look at what it looks like with and without. A lot I applied. Alright, not bad. Okay, so we can increase the intensity by playing with the opacity slider. Alright, so the background looks really, really dramatic. Alright, so if we look at it, it affected the skin tones, but suppose I wanted it to affect the background only. So now that a layer mask is applied by default, that's how I set up the action. We can grab a brush tool, and our foreground color is set to black, and we can actually paint away. some of that color from the skin that we don't want. So it'll just affect the background only. Yeah, skin was unnaturally orange. Alright, not bad. Paint some more of the stuff away. And not bad. So if we again increase the intensity, it affects the background only, and it really doesn't affect the model. So take it to about 20%. 20% fine. Okay, and there you go. So let's have a quick look at the before and the after. So here is the before, this is the after, before, after, before, after. And these are just some of the things you can do. A good camera. You don't necessarily need flash, Photoshop. You don't necessarily need the Portrait Pro plugin that I'm using, but you just need a good camera and some imagination. So, welcome